The Mont Blanc pen freezes in my hand mid-signature, ink bleeding into the acquisition contract like a wound. Through my office phone, Nadine from Velvet Knot Weddings clears her throat with the hesitation of someone delivering terminal news. I'm sorry, Miss Wade, but your family has asked that we remove you from the guest list. My gaze drifts to the Seattle skyline beyond my window, a panorama that usually reminds me how far I've climbed. 48 floors up, overlooking a city where my company now controls 18 premier venues. Below, the dotted lights of traffic flow like blood through veins, people moving forward while I sit suspended in disbelief. There must be some misunderstanding. I say, my voice steadier than the trembling that starts in my fingertips. I contributed $60,000 to my sister's wedding. Yes, well, Nadine pauses. I was told those funds were considered a gift with no expectations attached. The contract before me, a $7 million hotel acquisition that would expand Wade Collective into our fifth state, suddenly seems trivial compared to this betrayal, arriving on what should be my moment of professional triumph. The money has already been allocated to vendors, Nadine continues, her voice tightening. Your parents were quite clear this was discussed with you. The pen creates another dark blot on the paper as my hand tightens. 6 months earlier, I had quietly transferred the funds after overhearing Celeste fretting about costs during Sunday dinner. We might need to scale back, she'd whispered to our mother in the kitchen. I'd pretended not to hear, stepping back into the dining room where my father was congratulating my brother-in-law on his promotion to regional sales manager. That's a real career, Dad had said, raising his glass. When conversation turned to my recent acquisition of 3 vineyard venues, Dad had chuckled. Eleanor's still playing event planner, but at least she's having fun. I hadn't corrected him, hadn't mentioned the 8-figure revenue, or my company's expansion into 4 states. Instead, I'd written the check the next morning, telling myself success would eventually speak for itself. Please email me a breakdown of how my contribution was allocated. I tell Nadine now, my voice cooling to the temperature I reserve for difficult negotiations. Miss Wade, I'm sure your parents. The email, Nadine. Itemized expenditures. Today. Her nervous swallow carries through the line. Your parents assured me this was all discussed with you. I don't want to be caught in the middle of a family. This isn't about family. It's about business. My hands have stopped trembling. I pull up my company's vendor database on my second monitor, fingers moving with newfound purpose. You'll have the breakdown in my inbox within the hour. Of course, Miss Wade. I press the intercom button the moment the call ends. Amber, connect me with Jessica in legal, please. Not my parents. Not Celeste. Not the angry confrontation they might expect. The Wade family taught me one thing well. Power speaks louder than emotion. I stand and walk to the window, pressing my palm against the cool glass. For a fleeting moment, my reflection reveals what I try to hide in board meetings. The little sister still seeking approval. The daughter whose achievements are minimized. The outsider looking in at her own family. A single tear threatens, but I blink it away before it can fall. 20 minutes to compose myself before Jessica arrives. 20 minutes to accept that my only sister's wedding might become the final battlefield in a war I never wanted to fight. The Seattle skyline blurs briefly before I force myself to focus on the buildings my company now owns. The venues where other families celebrate their milestones. The empire I've built while mine continued to overlook me. I straighten my shoulders and return to my desk. The contract awaits my signature expansion, growth, success, all the things that have never been enough to make them see me. But perhaps now they'll have no choice. The Velvet Knot email lands in my inbox with the sterile politeness of a surgical knife. I sit at my desk, fingers hovering over the keyboard, pulse thrumming as I scan each line. As per our conversation with Richard and Diana Wade, we're pleased to confirm their generous gift covering all primary vendor expenses for Celeste's wedding. My palm presses against my chest as if to physically hold back the dawning realization. Their generous gift, not mine. I grip the edge of my desk, steadying myself. 3 clicks into our vendor management system, and there it is, confirmation that stings worse than the uninvitation. Every single wedding vendor for Celeste's event appears on my network chart. Florence Floral, Westlake Catering, Taylor Photography, all subsidiaries or partner companies to Wade Collective. My phone buzzes with a notification. I tap the screen to find a group text between my parents, Celeste, and her fiancé discussing wedding details from 3 weeks ago. A thread I was never part of despite funding the entire event. Evidence not of oversight, but deliberate exclusion. I've arranged for the ice sculpture delivery at 4 p.m., my mother wrote. My father's response, the Wade family knows how to celebrate properly. Indeed we do. 30 minutes later, Jessica and Martin file into my executive conference room, faces professionally neutral as they take their seats. I stand at the head of the table, spine straight as the legal contracts projected on the wall behind me. The contracts are ironclad, Jessica says, her voice precise as she adjusts her glasses. All vendors may withdraw services with 21 days' notice. No penalties. Martin clears his throat. There's something else you should know. He slides a folder across the polished table. Velvet Knot Weddings became a Wade Collective acquisition last month. The paperwork was finalized yesterday. And the venue? I ask, though I already know the answer. Willow Creek Estate is registered under Pinnacle Holdings, Martin continues, which is one of our subsidiaries. I complete his sentence, a cold clarity washing over me, the pinnacle of irony. My family chose to celebrate at a venue I own without bothering to realize it. Jessica's eyes narrow with concern. Eleanor, I should point out the potential repercussions if we move forward. Your family has legal recourse. Against me? Their uninvited daughter? The laugh that escapes my lips sounds foreign even to my ears. Please outline what exactly my family stands to lose. Martin taps his tablet and a new spreadsheet appears on the wall. Venue, catering, florals, photography, videography, coordination services. He lists methodically. All deposits would be forfeited according to contractual terms. And the timeline? 20 days until the wedding, Jessica confirms. If we begin the withdrawal process today, they'll have essentially no time to secure replacement vendors. Not at this level of service. I think of Celeste's excitement when she found the cascading wisteria at Willow Creek, her teary phone call about the perfect rose gold sunset for photos. Dreams I helped fulfill while being systematically erased from the celebration. Martin shifts uncomfortably. There's a business consideration as well. This could affect our Portland expansion if it becomes public. Venue magnate sabotages sister's wedding isn't the press we want ahead of city council approvals. I turn to the window, Seattle sprawling below me. The empire I've built piece by piece while my family continued to see the little girl playing dress-up. My reflection stares back, composed and certain. Begin coordinated service withdrawals, I say, my voice steady. Effective immediately. Jessica and Martin exchange glances but nod. They know me well enough to recognize when a decision is final. My office phone rings the moment they leave. Nadine from Velvet Knot, her earlier professional composure fractured by panic. Miss Wade, there must be some mistake. All the vendors are sending termination notices. No mistake, I interrupt. The contracts are being exercised according to their terms. But your sister's wedding requires my presence, apparently, just not my money. I end the call, sinking into my chair. As vendors begin sending cancellation notices to my family, I wonder if business success was truly worth the price of family connection. Should I stand firm on principle and let them face the consequences of their actions, or find a way to salvage both the wedding and my dignity? What would you do when those who should value you most continually fail to see your worth? The answer waits in the gathering storm of my family's impending realization. They've never truly seen me. Perhaps now they'll have no choice. The next morning at the office, my phone vibrates against my desk for the 7th time in 2 hours. Dad's name flashes on the screen again, his 5th call since breakfast. I let it ring until voicemail claims it, then press the speaker button to hear his message. Eleanor, this has gone far enough. His voice quivers with barely contained rage. If these vendors don't reinstate their services by noon tomorrow, I'm contacting my attorney. You might think you're being clever, but this is criminal interference with contracts. I almost laugh at the irony he'd be suing his own daughter's company. The sound dies in my throat as another call comes through. Mom this time. Sweetheart? She begins, her voice honeyed with false concern. How could you ruin your sister's special day? What kind of person does that to family? We raised you better than this. I end the message midway through her guilt trip and stare at the Seattle skyline. The morning fog has lifted, revealing a clarity I wish I felt inside. My assistant, Amber, appears in the doorway with a stack of pink message slips. 3 calls from the Hendersons, they're friends of your parents? And Mr. Blackwell from the Downtown Business Association wants to know if there's any truth to the rumors about vendor troubles with the Wade wedding. They've been busy, I murmur, accepting the messages. There's more. Amber hands me the Morning Society page from the Seattle Times, folded to highlight a small item. Sources report a mysterious vendor exodus from the upcoming Wade-Pembroke nuptials, leaving Seattle society wondering what calamity has befallen one of the season's most anticipated celebrations. I set the paper down carefully, as if it might burn my fingertips. I rescheduled your investor meeting for next week, Amber adds. Jessica thought you might need the time to handle this situation. Thank you. Alone again, I cancel 2 more meetings, knowing I can't focus when my phone keeps lighting up with accusations. The morning dissolves into damage control, fielding calls from business associates who've received frantic messages from my parents painting me as vindictive and unstable. Later that evening, I sit cross-legged on my living room floor, laptop balanced on my knees, the lights of the city spread below my penthouse windows like fallen stars. I've ordered takeout that sits untouched beside me as I scroll through an old family video from Celeste's 16th birthday. Eleanor planned everything. Mom says to Aunt Judith in the video, her arm around Celeste, she's always been good at little parties. Little parties. The same year, I coordinated a charity gala for 800 people that raised over $2 million. I paused the video and opened my email. There, in black and white, 3 years of correspondence with extended family where my parents have systematically minimized my career. Eleanor's venue business is doing well. Dad wrote to Uncle Robert last Christmas, never mentioning that well meant expanding into a 4th state with revenue approaching 9 figures. My phone pings with a notification. Celeste has posted on Instagram a moody black and white photo of her engagement ring with the caption, "Sometimes the people who should love you the most are the ones who hurt you deepest. Grateful for those who stand by me while selfish people destroy others' happiness for personal gain." The comments are filled with heart emojis and supportive messages asking what happened. She doesn't name me, but doesn't need to. I open a new document and begin typing. Every email, every text, every conversation where I was dismissed or diminished, every dollar spent on Celeste's wedding, every vendor contract, every thread of evidence forms a timeline of a pattern I've allowed for too long. The next morning, Amber walks into my office carrying a brown paper bag that releases the aroma of cinnamon and butter when she sets it on my desk. "Your favorite from Meredith's Bakery," she says, pulling out a warm morning bun. "You look like you haven't slept." "I haven't," I admit, accepting the offering with grateful hands. Amber leans against my desk, her expression softening. For what it's worth, I'd have uninvited them from my wedding years ago. The unexpected comment catches me mid-bite, and I nearly choke on a laugh, the first genuine one in days. Amber joins in, and for a brief moment, the weight lifts from my shoulders. The lightness disappears 30 minutes later when my father's voice booms from the reception area. My family has arrived unannounced, their voices carrying down the hallway as Amber tries unsuccessfully to enforce my closed-door policy. She can't hide from us forever, Dad declares, his footsteps growing louder. My office door swings open. Dad strides in first, followed by Mom and a stony-faced Celeste. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows behind me, the afternoon sun illuminates the tableau of family dysfunction. "What do you think you're doing?" Dad demands, his face flushed with indignation. I lean back in my chair, hands folded calmly on my desk. "Exactly what you taught me, protecting my investments." Mom steps forward, her hand fluttering dismissively. "It's just a silly wedding invitation, Eleanor. Why make such a fuss? We thought you'd be too busy with your project. To attend anyway." Project. I savor the word before reaching for my phone. "Let me show you my project." I pull up the group text they created for wedding planning, the one I was never included in, and project it onto the wall screen. Message after message appears. Discussions of seating arrangements, floral designs, menu selections. Mom sharing the credit card receipt for the venue deposit. "Just put it on our card, we can use Eleanor's money, but say it's from all of us." Dad's message. "She'll never know the difference. She's too wrapped up in her little business ventures." The blood drains from their faces as their words fill the wall behind me. "Did you think I wouldn't find out?" I ask quietly. "Or did you just not care?" Celeste sinks into a chair, staring at the messages as if seeing them for the first time. Mom opens her mouth, closes it, then tries again. "We were trying to simplify things," she manages weakly, "but something has shifted in the room, and within me." Looking at their stunned expressions, a realization washes over me. I've spent years chasing their approval, but I've built something they can't dismiss or diminish any longer. I don't need their validation to command respect. The door opens again as Jessica and Martin enter, arms laden with folders. Jessica, ever the professional, nods to my family before setting a slim portfolio on my desk. "The solution you requested," she says, opening it to reveal a detailed proposal. Martin steps forward with a tablet displaying photographs of the Laurel House, one of my smaller estates. Everything can be ready within the original time frame. We've confirmed availability with all replacement vendors. Dad watches this exchange, his expression morphing from anger to confusion. "You have a team," he says, as if noticing for the first time that I've built more than just a hobby. "A remarkable one," I agree, standing taller now. "They've prepared an alternative that salvages the wedding while protecting my dignity, something you never bothered to consider." My executive team presents the solution with precision and confidence, offering what my family has only taken: solutions instead of demands, respect instead of dismissal. In their presence, I feel my voice strengthen, my spine straighten. When they finish, I open my desk drawer and withdraw a folder embossed with the Wade Collective logo, a portfolio I prepared through the night, outlining my terms. The Laurel House. 1 day only. Basic services included. I slide the folder across the desk. My alternative offer. As my family stares at the document before them, I get the text message. I glance at the sender ID, Celeste. I look up at my sister standing across from me, phone in hand, her eyes meeting mine with an intensity I haven't seen since we were children. "I need to speak with you," the message says, alone. I nod at her and she leaves the office with my parents. 2 days later, the wind whips across Crescent Bay Lodge's outdoor terrace, carrying salt and victory on its breath. I've chosen this cliffside venue deliberately, my crown jewel property, with its panoramic ocean views and understated luxury that commands 7 figures annually. The perfect backdrop for precision warfare. Celeste arrives 15 minutes early, her sedan pulling into the circular drive where Martin waits to escort her. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I watch my sister's expression shift from confusion to awe as she takes in the sweeping architecture, the way the building seems to emerge organically from the cliffside like it grew there rather than being constructed. "Eleanor." Celeste steps onto the terrace, silk scarf fluttering around her throat. Her eyes widen, taking in the infinity pool that appears to spill directly into the Pacific. "This is... yours?" "Welcome to Crescent Bay." I gesture to the leather portfolio on the glass table. "Please sit, too." The ocean crashes rhythmically below us, providing a soundtrack to what must be done. I open the portfolio without preamble, presenting the first document. "This is the confirmation from Velvet Knot removing me from your guest list." I slide it across the table, followed by a bank statement. This shows my $60,000 contribution, which according to Nadine, was represented as a gift with no expectations. Celeste's fingers tremble slightly as she reviews each page. I continue methodically, laying out vendor contracts, cancellation notices, and the email thread with Nadine. Each of these vendors has withdrawn services as of yesterday. The venue is no longer available. Catering, flowers, photography, all canceled. My voice remains steady, factual. Color drains from Celeste's face as comprehension dawns. "Mom and Dad said you were too busy to come, that you had meetings in Portland that weekend." "I own the venue, Celeste. I own most of the vendors. Did you really think I wouldn't discover I'd been uninvited from a wedding I largely funded?" Understanding breaks across her features like a wave. "How much of this wedding industry do you actually control?" Before I can answer, the terrace door bangs open. My parents storm through, Father's face flushed above his golf shirt. "What do you think you're doing?" He strides toward us, Mother following in his wake. "Celeste, we've been calling you for hours." I'm showing my sister the truth. I rise slowly, reaching for the remote on the table. "Since you've spent years hiding it from her." Father waves dismissively. This childish tantrum over a wedding invitation. This isn't about an invitation. The wall behind me illuminates as the hidden screen activates. This is about respect. The Wade Collective organizational chart appears 18 premier venues across 5 states, hospitality holdings, vendor networks, and revenue projections. Father's mouth opens, then closes. "Eleanor's just playing at business," he attempts, turning to Celeste. "Got lucky with a few properties that..." 412 employees. I advance the slide. 18 venues. 8 hotels. Annual revenue of $37 million. This isn't luck, Dad. This is what you refuse to see. Mother steps forward. Darling, we always knew you were doing well with your little company, but my little company is worth more than Dad's ever was. The words land like stones in still water. The invitation wasn't the insult. The insult was spending my money while pretending I didn't matter. Celeste stands suddenly. I need you both to leave. Celeste, Mother begins. Now. My sister's voice carries an unfamiliar edge. I need to speak with Eleanor alone. The silence after they exit feels like the eye of a hurricane, temporary, charged with potential energy. Celeste turns to me, tears brightening her eyes. I didn't know any of it. That was the point. I closed the portfolio. They made sure you didn't. The terrace door opens again, but this time it's Jessica and Martin who enter, each carrying leather-bound presentations. Jessica nods professionally at Celeste. Miss Wade, we've prepared the contracts for the Laurel House. She places her portfolio on the table. It's available for your original date. Every Zalich's not cappers. Martin adds his documentation beside hers. We've assembled a complete vendor portfolio ready to execute with 21 days' notice. Everything from your original plan has been replicated, with adjustments for the new location. Celeste watches them with growing comprehension. Miss Wade, she repeats softly, noticing how they address me with deference, not the dismissive tone our parents always used. Thank you, Jessica. Martin. I gesture toward the chairs. Please, walk Celeste through the options. As they outline the new wedding plan with calm efficiency, I notice the shift in my sister's posture, straightening, leaning forward with intent focus. For the first time, she's seeing me not as her overlooked sister, but as the businesswoman our parents never acknowledged. My phone vibrates with incoming calls an hour later. Mother, father, mother again. The tone of their voicemails has shifted from demanding to pleading over the past hours. Their society friends have started asking questions about problems with the wedding. Father's business associates, previously unaware of my success, are expressing surprise at learning about Eleanor Wade's business empire. Is this real? Celeste asks when Jessica finishes, gesturing to the alternative wedding plans. You'd do this after everything? The Laurel House is yours if you want it. Martin will coordinate everything. I meet her eyes directly, but we need to discuss terms. The family meeting is scheduled tomorrow at my headquarters. As Celeste looks at me with new understanding, I wonder, should I simply reinstate the original wedding plans to spare her pain, or stand firm on my terms to finally establish boundaries with my family? Sometimes mercy feels like weakness, but sometimes strength requires forgiveness. The ocean crashes below us, constant and uncompromising. Like the truth, Eleanor, Celeste says finally, I'd like to see the Laurel House. I nod to Martin, who begins gathering the contracts. This isn't victory yet, just the first acknowledgement of a battlefield that has existed for years. My phone vibrates again. Another parent calling to plead rather than demand. The balance is shifting, but the war isn't over. It has only just begun. The next day, at headquarters, the family attorney's briefcase snaps open with military precision on my conference table. My father settles into the chair directly across from me, checking his Rolex for the third time in 5 minutes, a nervous tick I've observed since childhood, whenever he feels control slipping away. Mother arranges herself beside him, her forced smile as brittle as the pearls around her neck. We've drafted a reasonable compromise, Father says, sliding a document across the polished surface. You reinstate the original vendors and venue, and will ensure you receive a proper invitation. I don't touch the paper. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows behind them, Seattle's skyline forms a glittering backdrop that seems to underscore the distance between us. Them still seeing the daughter who needs their approval, me seeing clearly for perhaps the first time. A compromise suggests equal standing. I say, my voice steady. There's nothing equal about spending $60,000 of my money while excluding me from the event. Mother leans forward, her perfume the same scent she's worn since I was a child suddenly cloying. Think about what people will say, Eleanor. The family reputation is apparently worth exactly $60,000, I finish for her, plus tax. My father's jaw tightens. You've made your point with this little business demonstration. Now it's time to be reasonable. The word little hangs between us. The same diminutive he's attached to every achievement I've ever presented. Little business. Little hobby. Little Eleanor, playing at success. I press a button on my phone. Amber, please bring in the portfolio. While we wait, neither parent apologizes. Neither acknowledges the fundamental wrong of their actions. They simply expect compliance, as they always have. My assistant enters with a leather-bound portfolio, placing it before me with the precision of someone who understands exactly what this moment represents. I open it to the first page, a financial statement. Wade Collective grossed $83 million last year. I say, turning the portfolio toward them. That's approximately 7 times what your company ever made in its best year, Dad. His eyes widen, disbelief warring with dawning comprehension. I flip to the next page, a Wall Street Journal profile. I deliberately minimized our family connection in every interview. Not because I was ashamed of you, but because I thought it might hurt your pride to be known as Eleanor Wade's parents rather than the other way around. Another page, property holdings. Another organizational chart. With each turn, their expressions shift from confusion to shock. I don't need your permission to be successful, I say quietly. I need your respect to be family. The conference room door opens. Celeste steps in, her eyes red-rimmed but resolute. Martin stands beside her, his presence a silent confirmation that he's shown her everything, the true extent of my contribution, the systematic dismissal, the empire I've built while they weren't looking. My terms are non-negotiable, I continue, closing the portfolio. The Laurel House, 80 guests maximum, $185,000, paid up front. That's outrageous, Father sputters. That's market rate. I correct him. Actually, it's a family discount. Celeste moves to stand beside me, not them. The shift is small but seismic. I'd like a tour, she says softly, of everything. 30 minutes later, we stand in the main ballroom of my flagship venue. Crystal chandeliers reflect light across marble floors that cost more than my father's first house. Staff members approach with questions, each deferring to me with a respect my family has never witnessed. Miss Wade, the Morrison wedding needs approval on the custom lighting installation. Miss Wade, Chicago called about accelerating the acquisition timeline. Miss Wade, your investment team is waiting in the North Conference Room whenever you're ready. With each interaction, my father grows quieter, his shoulders gradually losing their rigid certainty. Mother wanders toward a display case featuring awards and press clippings, her fingers trailing over glass that protects evidence of a success she never bothered to acknowledge. When we reach my office, Mother notices it immediately, the only personal item in a space otherwise dedicated to business. A family photo from Celeste's graduation, all 4 of us smiling, my arm around my sister's shoulders. You kept this here? She asks, voice uncharacteristically small. Some things matter more than others, I answer simply. Celeste steps forward, taking my hands in hers. I want you to be my maid of honor, she says. Not just a guest, if you'll still consider it. The request catches me off guard, warmth blooming in my chest despite all my careful defenses. I'd be honored. I say, then add the boundary I should have established years ago, but only if it's because you want me there. I always did, she whispers. I just didn't know about any of this, about what they did. Father stands by the window, looking out at the city, but seeing something else entirely. When he turns, something has shifted in his expression, the beginnings of recognition I've waited decades to receive. We saw what we wanted to see, he says finally, the admission falling from him like a weight. We never really looked. In my outer office, Mother silently writes a check for the Laurel House, her hand trembling slightly. No complaints about the cost, no further attempts at manipulation. The power has shifted not because I demanded it, but because reality finally broke through their carefully constructed narrative. Celeste embraces me, tears streaming down her face. I didn't know, she repeats against my shoulder. I should have known. Over her shoulder, I catch Martin's eye and nod once. Make it perfect, I instruct him. Despite everything. Because that's what family does. Even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. They find a way forward. Not by forgetting, but by finally seeing clearly. On the wedding day, the morning sun streams through the Laurel House's glass atrium as I direct my team with hand signals they've learned to read like second nature. White roses cascade from hanging installations, transforming the space into a botanical cathedral. My venue, one of many in my portfolio, has never looked more immaculate. Miss Wade, the champagne delivery is here, my events director says, tablet in hand. Thank you, Colin. Have them use the service entrance and begin immediate chilling. My voice carries the quiet authority I've spent years cultivating. I catch sight of my parents entering the grand foyer, their posture different now, tentative, almost deferential. Dad nods at me from across the room instead of offering the dismissive pat on the shoulder I'd grown accustomed to at family gatherings. Eleanor. Mom approaches, wearing an expression I rarely see directed at me, a mixture of pride tinged with regret. Everything looks absolutely stunning. Mom. Thank you. Let me introduce you to my executive team. I gesture toward the group of professionals who've stood beside me through everything. This is Jessica, my chief legal counsel. Martin, operations director. Colin runs all our Pacific Northwest venues. Mom's eyes widen slightly as each person greets her with the same respectful, Mrs. Wade, and knowing looks that speak volumes about where their loyalties lie. Later, crystal flutes reflect prismatic light across white linen as I rise to deliver my toast. The same family members who once talked over me at Sunday dinners now lean forward, attentive. To Celeste and James, I begin, my voice steady. Family is complicated. Legacy even more so. I pause, meeting my father's gaze. You don't build empires out of spite. You build them with vision, then decide who gets to share the view. Applause ripples through the room. Celeste stands, moving to embrace me, microphone still in hand. Not just my sister, she says, voice thick with emotion, but my inspiration. Her words hang in the air, vindication I'd stopped believing would ever come. After the toasts, Jessica and Martin find me on the terrace overlooking the Sound. The sunset paints the water copper and gold, a perfect backdrop for what feels like my own personal victory. To flawless execution, Martin says, raising his glass, and bulletproof contracts, Jessica adds with a wink. I touch my glass to theirs. You two are more family to me than they've been in years. The admission comes easily now, without the sting it once carried. To boundaries that build bridges, not walls. Months later, Sunday dinner unfolds in my penthouse, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the Seattle skyline I conquered one building at a time. My father leans forward at the dining table I selected for its perfect dimensions. What do you think about expanding into the Southwest? He asks, his tone genuinely curious. With your business model, Arizona could be untapped potential. From the living room, I hear my mother's voice. My daughter, the CEO, she tells her friend, proudly displaying a magazine feature I'm certain she's memorized. My phone buzzes with a text from Celeste. The wedding photos have gone viral, each venue tagged with my company's name. A second message follows. You didn't just fund this wedding, you held it together. I see that now. As I welcome my family into my home on my terms, I wonder if true reconciliation comes from forgiveness or from finally being seen for who you really are. Is it enough that they recognize my success now? Or should genuine family bonds be unconditional from the start? What would you do? Embrace this new relationship or maintain protective boundaries?